Alright, good evening everybody. It's your boy Akeem and welcome to today's blog. Here to finally kick things off with the 2015 college football season. And we are in week 1 of this year and games are going to start tomorrow. Now it's time for me to give you this week's key matches as well as my upset game of the week and the game of the week. Now starting with the game starting tomorrow on Thursday the 3rd. This first game is going to be at 6 o'clock between UNC and South Carolina. Now the Gamecocks is going to be hosting this matchup, and this is going to be an interesting game for you guys. Now for South Carolina, they're going to have to start with a new quarterback. Connor Mitchell is going to be at the helm at quarterback, and they do have he's definitely a decent player to look out for. Now for UNC, they have a well-experienced quarterback in Marquise Williams, who's led the team in rushing and passing, and he's a good dual threat. But he does have a top-notch receiver and Ryan Switzer returning back for another year. This is going to be a great matchup for between these two teams. Now for South Carolina, the defense has not been playing well last season compared to 2 years ago when Jadeveon Clowney was playing for the Gamecocks. Now this is going to be an interesting game, and I do like this game a lot. But for this matchup, I'm actually going to stick with the Gamecocks in this one. I think Marquise Williams is going to be a problem, but the Gamecocks defense is going to do well enough to keep containment from him running the football and depend more on his throwing ability against that secondary for the Gamecocks. I think that South Carolina should win this matchup, will win this matchup. Next game at Utah as the Utes host Michigan. Now for Michigan, they're going to have a good quarterback battle between Shane Morris and Jake Rudock. And head coach Jim Harbaugh decided not to actually name out their starter for this matchup this week. This is going to be a good game for you guys to watch. I think that Shane Morris should be second string and Jake Rudock should start at the helm at quarterback due to his better experience passing, especially coming out of Iowa. He was the starting quarterback for the Hawkeyes. Now for the Utes, they have a good premier running back and 1,000-yard rusher last season and Devontae Booker. This is going to be a good matchup because the Utah Utes is actually capable of pulling off some good wins, and they have been showing it over recent seasons in college football. For this matchup, I'm going to have to actually go with Michigan. I think with their new head coach Jim Harbaugh, I think he's going to turn this team around and become a good bowl eligible team this year. Next up, number 2 TCU at Minnesota. This is going to be an easy pick for me. I'm going to have to go with the Horned Frogs in this one. TCU is bound to make it to the playoffs at the end of the season, but we will see. It's going to be a tough road ahead for the Horned Frogs. Next up, it could be an upset alert between Texas San Antonio versus at number 22 Arizona. Now, last season, the Wildcats escaped with a 26-23 victory against the Texas San Antonio team. This is going to be an interesting matchup against these Roadrunners. This is going to be a good matchup for you guys to watch, but this should be an easy win for a new Solomon leading the helm at quarterback for the Wildcats. Now at Friday, this is going to be a good battle between Michigan State who's the number 5 ranked team in the country at Western Michigan. Now Western Michigan has a good feature back in Javorian Franklin, the MAC player of the year last season, and they do have a pretty good offense talking about the Broncos, but I believe that the Michigan State Spartan defense is definitely going to be way too much for that MAC offense, and I think this is going to be a good win for number 5 Michigan State. Next up, Washington and head coach Chris Peterson heading over to Boise to face his former team against the number 23 Boise State Broncos. Now, this is going to be a good matchup, I think, but I have to go with Boise State in this one because they're in the blue turf. They have the home field advantage, and I still do not really believe in the Huskies thus far because they had a they were bowl eligible at the end of the season, but they didn't really have any good quality wins. I still think they're going to struggle this year, so I'm going to have to go with Boise State over the Huskies. Next up, Northwestern is going to be hosting number 21 Stanford, which is a little bit interesting matchup. You don't really expect these two teams to play each other, but I had to call it out. But I think that number 21 Stanford is going to be way too much for Northwestern. This should be an easy win. Next up, it could be another upset big. Louisville is going to be traveling to Auburn to face the number 6 Tigers. Now, I think they're a little bit overrated starting the season off at number 6. I do believe at best it should be starting off at 10 talking about Auburn, but Louisville, they're going to be losing their top. They have to play without their top offensive weapon last season in Devontae Booker. He's now a Miami Dolphin. This should be a good win for an easy win for Auburn in this matchup. Next up, number 13 UCLA is going to be hosting Virginia, UVA. Now, last season, the Cavaliers gave the Bruins a scare in the season opener, in which the Bruins did escape with a close victory. But I think this is going to be a big win for the Bruins over the Cavaliers. Next up in Lincoln, Nebraska, as the Nebraska Cornhuskers host the BYU Cougars, and the Cougars have to return a quarterback, Taysom Hill, and I think he's a good, spectacular quarterback, especially with him running the football. But they're going to depend more on him running less this season. They're going to actually use him in less running plays because he is coming back from a knee injury. And I think this is going to be a good matchup for you guys to watch because the Bruins can pull off some good upsets as an independent. But I think the Nebraska Cornhuskers and quarterback Tommy Armstrong will do just enough to start off the season off with a victory. Next up, number 25, Tennessee is going to be hosting Bowling Green. Now, there's a lot of hype and a lot of high hopes for the Volunteers entering this season because of quarterback Joshua Dobbs. I think he's a good quarterback, and he couldn't have a breakthrough season this year after ending the season off with a 4-run record at the end of the year. But this should be a win for the Tennessee Volunteers over the Falcons. But this is going to be an interesting season this year. I did predict the Volunteers to go 6-6 overall, but they could possibly come off with a winning record and make it to a good bowl matchup. Next up, this is my upset game of the week as the Texas A&M Aggies host number 15 Arizona State. Sorry, Justin had to go against the Sun Devils. They do have a good offense with a good experienced quarterback in Mike Bercovici, but I think that Kyle Allen is going to get a little bit more attention headed towards the end of the season. He's actually a Heisman hopeful in some people's eyes, and he is a good quarterback who just had his first year of experience last season. I think this is a good quarterback for you guys to watch and a good sleeper for this year's Heisman. I think that the Aggies are going to pull off the upset at home to host the Sun Devils. Next up, now this is going to be an interesting matchup that I know that you guys are going to be saying, why is he even mentioned in this game? Eastern Washington is going to be traveling to Oregon to face the Ducks, who's ranked number 7. Now, the reason why I'm calling out this matchup, which should be an easy win for Oregon, is because Eastern Washington had a former quarterback, a Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year 2-time, and Vernon Adams, who is now the starting quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. So this is going to be a little bit of a sweet victory for Oregon and quarterback Vernon Adams. But I had to call out this matchup because of Vernon Adams, and he is the starting quarterback, the transfer from Eastern Washington. And lastly, my game of the week, number 20 Wisconsin against number 3 Alabama. Now, this game is going to be played at Arlington, Texas, in AT&T Stadium. This is going to be an interesting battle because last season, I really believe Wisconsin lost that game for themselves when they played against the season opener against LSU. Now, they are capable of pulling off a victory. Now, they do have the return of Corey Clement, who is actually going to be replacing a Heisman hopeful and Doak Walker Award winner for 2014, Melvin Gordon. This is going to be an interesting battle, but it's all going to start off in the trenches in that line of scrimmage to who has a better defensive line and offensive line. Now, you have to give Wisconsin some credit because they do have some talent on that defensive end, and I think this is going to be a close battle. But I think because the defensive and offensive line for Alabama, I think there's a tad bit better than Wisconsin, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion. I think I think that they have that much of an edge over Wisconsin in this matchup. But I do believe that Wisconsin can pull off this upset. But I have to go with the Tide in this one, starting the season off ranked 3 overall. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys will be on Tuesday, where I will give you a recap of Week 1. And I'm actually going to give you one last video on Sunday for another big game on Monday between Virginia hosting number 1 Ohio State. I'll see you guys on Sunday for that particular matchup, but then I'll see you on the recap for Tuesday. Thank you for watching today's vlog. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.